banking finance. Sorry, Islamic banking and finance, where he focuses on home buying and property investments. And you can also call home buying like a mortgage. Before he started Sharia Labs, he helped create Islamic banking products in the UK and also in some Gulf countries. He also shares his knowledge as a visiting scholar at the Islamic centers and is part of several international Islamic finance groups. At Sharia Labs, he helps people to understand businesses and find ethical Sharia compliant ways to manage their money and invest wisely. So I would like to open up the floor for our speaker, Sheikh Ibrahim, to please dive more into this interesting topic of RIBA. Thank you so much.
جزاكم الله خيرا. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us this beautiful opportunity of starting this amazing Usrah. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it a bigger Usrah and barakalize it for us, permit me to use that word. And like you said, it's Usrah, like Sister Habiba mentioned, is a family. And we're going to have discussion to be in form of family, so which is fine. Nothing too academically rigorous, but we want to bring stuff from the theoretical mind just to see how natural or how we implement this, to be precise. I'll be speaking for a few minutes. Hopefully, Dr. Ibrahim will also speak for a few minutes. If there are other things to add afterwards, we'll see, inshallah. And like Sister Habiba said, please feel free to drop in messages into the chat box. We can catch it there and address it together. The topic around riba. Riba in Arabic language means growth. And there are several verses in the Quran as a Muslim, because we are conscious about it. The Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam also in the ahadith, several ones also talked about a riba. So riba generally means growth. Well, I think as a family, we should first understand this concept of riba itself, because there are some jargons, some terminologies, some buzzwords that we find here and there that could mean riba in the context of the Quran. Unfortunately, people use some words because over time it starts changing. What they call riba, we hear interest, some people say profit. So there's a lot of misunderstanding out there about what is riba or what is not riba. In fact, you see some people define Islamic banks today or Islamic investment, so to say, as the conventional investment or banking minus riba, even though even if that riba is there, but that's what we actually need to understand it. If we are reading Arabic text or research, you see them use the word fa'ida. Fa'ida means profit. So some people use the word profit and they mean interest by it actually. The way that somebody is raising up the hand, I'm sure. Rab Jabar. Please, anyone can interrupt me anytime.
No, apologies, please go ahead. That was a mistake, please.
Okay.
Apologies.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. So, if we look at the way the word is used, riba, it's the concept of riba. I'm going to come to it from Islamic perspective and Sharia technical meaning of riba. But we see different words being used. Some people, they market so-called Islamic financial products to us. They target profit and do not call it interest. Interest is a good word in itself if we ask ourselves. So there is nothing wrong Islamically with the word interest. So for me, I have interest in something. There's nothing wrong in it. I have profit in something. There's nothing wrong with it. What is the original meaning of fa'ida that the Arab world uses? In the Western world and what is brought to our own country in Nigeria, which we have the colony, right? We use the word interest, we use the word profit. So it becomes the language that we understand on the streets to mean riba. And probably we can actually have some Islamic product as well, and we still call it profit or we call it interest. The right word, because why is this? Why do we have the word fa'ida used in Arabic text and we have the word interest or profit used in English text? Is because some people try to actually make sugarcoat the word for us, not to see it as riba, even though it is riba. In the Arab world, when you hear the word riba, they know what riba means. They know that is that thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala frowns against. The Quran talks about it. It's the only verse in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is promising, I'm going to wage war against you. And all of those things, we are scared about it. We have that conscious mind of the spiritual aspect of our lives around our finances. We know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in control. So some people needed to still sell their product to us, exploit us, gain money from us. They need to get another word to use for that riba just to make it look fancier to us. So they coined the word fa'ida, which is a good word. And you mean to that is going to mean what we call the interest or what we call the profit, which is fine as well. Now, talk about the English word, for example. Before the 16th century, the word that is known to be riba is usury. And it is very interesting that we call it what it is. In their own word as well, when they say somebody is doing is transacting in usury, is something that they frown against. They hate it, even though they were not Muslims. They understand this is like an unrealistic, something that is not good to exploit others, to make money off debt and all of this. So that understanding was there for them as well. So Calvin and some people, while they were waging war against the church and politics and in the Western world then, they had to coin another word to just make usury go away, but the concept is still there, which is why they brought in the concept of interest. So they're now selling the word interest or profit and all of those. Riba, interest, profit, faida, whatever name we give to it, the concept of Sharia doesn't change on things. We have a qaida in the science of fiqh. We say al-ibratu laysat bil-musammayat lakin bil-mabani wal-madamin. The name you give to something doesn't change the reality. If somebody is doing salat or doesn't call it salat and is doing it the right way, you're going to say this is salat. If somebody is doing salat and they're not doing it the right way, even if they claim it is salat, it is not salat. So the reality, the context does not change regardless of the name we give to that thing. Now, what is riba in the language of Quran, in the language of Sharia? And why are we even talking about it? It is because those who disbelieve in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, they were involved in that as well, just like today. And they said in the Quran, ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّهُمْ قَالُوا إِنَّمَا الْبَيْعُ مِثْلُ الرِّبَى. They said that business transaction is just the same as a riba. Now, several places in the Quran, you will see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, while people are challenging the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will say, أَفَلَا تَتَفَكَّرُونَ أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ. All of those. Don't they think? Don't they have mind? Don't they have senses? Can they think about this? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't use that approach here. Because there is a concept of tashbih, there is something they feel there is a common ground for business and riba in their own understanding. So today, and this is something for us to learn as well as family, some people tell us things that we disagree about. We don't have to always resort to fighting or always resort to kind of um, a repugnant way of going about things. We should calm down, let them see the reality. Now they are saying riba and business, it's all business transaction. There is tashbih, there's something common, right, in business and in riba, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants them to see something else. He didn't abuse them. He said, وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَى. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made business transactions to be halal, وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَى. But riba is haram. Riba is something we must do away from. Riba is something that if you involve in, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has assigned some form of punishment to it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from his punishment. Now, what is that difference? There is a huge difference between riba. Business transaction is for me and you to sit down, have understanding in a way that is not negating anything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has laid down in principle. You bring money, I put money, I buy something from you, you buy from me, you want a house from me, I invest in rain business, and all these is going to lead to business transaction, and there's mutual benefit from all parties involved. But riba is on anything that is not going to grow, but at the end of the day, the thing I'm giving to you, there is no benefit coming out of it. I don't want to go into the exchange of barley and all of those hadiths of dates and salt and all of those. Let's face some reality now. Debt, for example, if I'm loaning you money, because there are concepts in Islam, the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants money to circulate amongst us is through business, through qard hasan, through gifts, through hiba, and all of those things. So if you want to go into business, there are some principles we must not breach. The principle of exploitation, of injustice, and many other stuff. And if you have cybex going on in our country today now, mashallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us. Now, I give money to someone. There is nothing wrong. The first part, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, he said business transaction is okay. Say, for example, somebody comes to me, I have a cup of water, and the person is saying, if I sell this commodity for 10 naira, for example. If you are buying from me from 10 naira instantly, that is business. I'm giving you a product, you're paying me for it. Now, it could also be shaped in a form of, I want this cup full of water, but I don't have money to pay now. I have got this car I want to buy from you. I don't have the full money, 1 million naira that you want to sell it for me now. But can I pay over time? Okay. Now I'm going to charge you 1,100,000 naira. Because now you're not paying me once. If you're paying once, you're taking it away, that's it, our business is done. But for the duration of that commodity now that you're going to take from me is going to be with you, and you're taking it away now. I'm not just selling you the car, I'm selling you I'm selling you another service that comes with the car. It's like you're going into rentage as well. So of course, from fiqh perspective, can we have two contracts in one sale and all of those? Huge discussion as well. But that is not Ainu Riba, is a business that you can have several contracts on. Probably there's another middle person, and there's another agency that is facilitating that, probably is the one that's you can rent car, right? So there could be rentage, there could be another sale, it could be something you are buying at proportion until you pay completely. That is business. But I want to borrow you money. And the way we borrow money could come in several ways. It could be I want to borrow money for homes, for example, for home financing, which we call mortgages. There are Sharia compliant ones, and there are those that are not Sharia because they are based on riba. How do we go about this? So if I bought, because money in itself cannot become money in itself. You have to put money into something. Debt cannot become money. There is no benefit coming out of debt. If I borrow money from someone, I should be able to just get that money back. I should pay back that amount. Putting anything on top of that money, that is where halal comes in, because I'm not dealing in anything. I gave you money to do something, it's fine. And I have to get that money back. So Sharia doesn't want people to make money off money without giving any value at the end of the day, without any tangible value or any economic value that we are putting at the end of it. It's not just me, I just make money. So people are running helter-skelter, and there is nothing I'm doing there. Sometimes somebody told me, Sheikh, tell me, I have this money I want to put in an investment. So then, and I mentioned a bank, a Sharia compliant bank in Nigeria, to him, that put your money there. He said he has 100,000 naira. I said, okay, put it there. 100,000 naira is fine. He said, how much is it going to make? I said to the bank, he said it's going to make 7,000 naira or thereabout after a year. It's like, he said that is too small. Okay, that is too small. I said, "Then if that is too small, you go outside, go get pure water, go slow, hold up, and start selling yourself. You could even make 7,000 every day or more than that. In 3 months' time, you probably open your own pure water company, or who knows. Uh, so he doesn't want to do that job, doesn't want to go into that work. Mm. We want some people to work for us, to do the job for us. So this person wants to take money, but they don't want to do anything. And this gratification is what is actually pushing us into troubles today. Like we can see, I mentioned earlier, cyber, PSEX, and many other. And this is coming over and over again. It's not new thing now. We are still going into it. So that concept of making money off people without putting any value in is something we should actually rethink. And riba could come in different forms. It could come in different forms. So this is just a short illustration um, of the difference between business transaction and a riba-based so-called business transaction. And this is why they were saying that al-bay' and al-riba, they are the same thing. They are all businesses. But even if they are common in some senses, there are those things that are different in them. And that is where we should actually focus on. When something is not common totally, you cannot equate them together. When there is difference between A and B, you cannot say they are completely the same. Unfortunately, the part where the difference comes in is where Sharia actually frowns upon, which is the riba, making money off others without anything. What if it is me that they are making money off? How am I going to feel? Lastly, I'm going to say on riba before Dr. Ibrahim talks, probably is going to give us more financial examples around that. Is that when we think about riba is not just about the person taking the riba. It's about me that I allowed or I'm giving the riba as well. We are both parties in that. We are contributing to that, to the stress that is happening in the world. Obasanjo once was quoted in a G summit very long time ago that if he was asked that what is the greatest in this world, is going to say that it is this interest, which is usury that I started with. The riba is what Obasanjo is referring to. Nigeria is still in debt today. We are not. They are not giving us anything in return. We are still paying debt. It is some Ujuwo. So this is one issue. A question I could ask: uh, probably there are banks. If you have savings bank in Sharia compliant banks, say Jais, for example, you have money there. They give you some money back that you get in your account. When you do it with probably say GTB or any other conventional bank, they give you some money at the end of the month as well. If they are both giving us money at the end of the month, why are we calling this one Sharia compliant and calling their own non-Sharia compliant? Is it because we brand this company Islam and we not brand that one Islam? Is that where riba comes in, or that's where we see what is Sharia compliant? At the end of the day, we are gaining money, whereas we're not reading the terms and conditions that binds us all. So it is not about Muslim business. It is about Islamic business. A Muslim could be running a riba-based business. Now, Yahshud has rain. There is nothing so to say, of course, rain is completely Islamic, but there is nothing Islamic about that name, if it makes sense what I'm trying to say. So it's not about Muslim is the CEO. No, a non-Muslim could be running a Sharia, a fully Sharia compliant business, not based on riba. So it's not about Muslims. It's about the world order of Islam, what Allah subhanahu the manner Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given. So understanding the concept of riba is very important. Like I said, it's not just about who is running it or what is just the name of riba or what do we call it. So riba is something we must run away from. We must run away from it. I'm going to end with an hadith of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because many of us we have some money in some investment, for example. We have money in non-Sharia compliant investment. Some people have made money out of these things and they are happy. In fact, some people even go to Hajj on it. Somebody earlier today, somebody was asking me about, he was narrating to me somebody who already made some money out of CBEX, and he's saying, I don't know, and all of those things were said. But we have Muslims making money off riba, making money off gambling, which is riba itself, making money off all those things that are not Sharia compliant. We take that money, we even use it to go to Hajj. Hajj is coming. I want to use money. Some people have money probably in some fixed accounts based on riba that is coming. I want to use it to go to Hajj or go to on Umrah and all of those things. Let me read this hadith and end with that. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Man hajja bimalin haram, aw kama qal." Whoever goes on Hajj on pilgrimage with haram money, وَوَضَعَ رِجْلَهُ فِي الرِّكَابِ, and he gets himself on something to get there, probably on plane, on camel, when they used to use camel, horse, whatever. ثُمَّ قَالَ لَبَّيْكَ اللَّهُمَّ لَبَّيْكَ. And that person starts doing talbiyah like every other person he meets there. يَقُولُ اللَّهُ, Allah will respond to that person saying, لَا لَبَّيْكَ لَكَ, there is no labbaik for you. وَلَا سَعْدَيْكَ, and there is no sa'ada for you, that you will not be successful. وَحَجُّكَ مَرْدُودٌ إِلَيْكَ, and this is your hajj, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not accept it. Why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rejecting this? Because of riba. So the concept of riba is something we can go on and on and on and on and talk about, or should know that it is something we must run away from as Muslims and be conscious about it. We need to start looking, start probing our investments. Are they riba based or not riba based? And there are ways we can pull out of all these things to make halal wealth from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I think I've spent more than the short time I should talk. And I want to ask questions, so I'm going to give pass on the baton back to Sister Habiba. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the beautiful talk. I would like to welcome our second speaker, Mr. Babatunde Ibrahim Ajani. I have placed a poll in the comment section, and I have also placed all the links to all the respective communities. Please do well to follow them and join their platforms as a way of showing your gratefulness, and also as a way of encouraging us to do more of this. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so Mr. Ibrahim Tunde is a financial expert with over 10 years of experience in areas like investment analysis, budgeting, and risk management. He was the chief financial officer at the Trust Author Financial Group, a non-interest investment bank in Nigeria. He is currently pursuing a PhD in Islamic finance at INCEIF University. His research focuses on using Islamic finance to support climate-friendly projects in developing countries. Mr. Ibrahim is passionate about sustainability and climate action. He holds various certifications from ICANN in Nigeria to ACA in UK, and is a certified Islamic financial planner, CIFP. His skills include financial analysis, Sharia compliant investments, and data analytics. He has led projects such as Nigeria's first healthcare sukuk, an ethical oil and gas fund, and real estate investments, both locally and internationally. Mr. Ibrahim Tunde, please, you have the floor. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you everyone for joining. It's an interesting session by the earlier speaker, Sheikh Ibrahim, and he has done a lot of justice to the topic. The foundational understanding of RIBA had been discussed. I think that's one thing we need to first understand in terms of what is RIBA, and then how do we see it in this modern day transaction. Yeah, going by its way, you realize that a lot of discussions have been going on as to how RIBA has been prohibited, and then why is it been prohibited, and then what are the consequences of RIBA in our economy. Even for non-Muslims, it is collectively agreed that the current banking system is not sufficient and take us out of this underdeveloped financial system. Again, we have Adamu Mohammed raising up his hands. Do you want to quickly talk before I continue? Okay. So again, we have a series of probably evolution of the modern system or economic system, so to say. We've experienced the socialist system, we've experienced the capitalist system, and then of course other systems like communism and what they likes. And then we've not been able to successfully have what we call shared prosperity. And then this is born out of the fact that RIBA still exists in our economic system, and then it has taken a lot of impact such that it's even very difficult to introduce any new system because the existing financial system is premised on all this structure. So if you look at it critically, why have we been having issues? Why is it that Islamic finance cannot dominate the entire financial system? Why is it difficult for us to practice all of these things? I will refer us back quickly to the fact that it is all premised on RIBA. But again, like Sheikh Ibrahim had mentioned, he had given a thorough understanding of RIBA, evidences from the Quran and the Sunnah, and also why it is very important for us to go out of RIBA. Just a quick one, of course. The simple definition of RIBA is just, as mentioned by him earlier, stipulated excess over and above the principal in a loan that is without due consideration. So again, when we see people talk around what Islamic finance is and then what are the expectations, you realize that it is not just the aspect of separating Islamic finance from the conventional from the existing financial system. It has its own guiding principle or general principle, as we call it, of course, and then it has its goals, what it aims to achieve. There are, of course, it wants to achieve mutual consent. This mutual consent, of course, is also born out of what the citation from the Quran, and then also it prohibits goror, prohibits kimar, so many fraud and deception. It ensures that we have transaction in mutual consent, of course, and then it premise on many many foundational talk around before you can earn something or before you can make profit on something. It has to be there should be a liability to it. So Again, you also want to ask what is liability. In the sense of Islamic finance, liability means that you must have, you must be able to take a level of risk for you to enjoy the benefit. If we now, I would just quickly talk about the modern day RIBA, because we've seen, Sheikh Ibrahim had mentioned a lot of things in terms of what RIBA or how RIBA has been conducted in the early era. So commonly what we see in terms of interest or RIBA in this current world is this the banking RIBA. There's the banking RIBA. The banking RIBA is so clear to everyone that the conventional system has incorporated RIBA into its own operation. So you cannot run away from it, either by way of deposits, by way of investment, by way of financing. So RIBA is always there, whether you give your money to the bank or the bank is giving you money. So it is RIBA based. And then you cannot also say that because I am not giving it, I'm receiving it, you are not receiving RIBA, or you are not receiving it, you are giving it, you are not participating in RIBA. All of these are they are all, you are all associate of RIBA. Now, it's also evolved through the dues that originate from credit sales, and then of course the amount of debt the amount of debt cannot be increased, just like the receivables in the loan. There's a fine line. I'm just going to say something that is not quite common, and then of course I know it's something a lot of people they have been asking ourselves. We find it difficult to even differentiate what RIBA is and then what is being practiced in the conventional finance. You know, if you put these two concepts together, you start realizing that some persons will say some set of people will say that it is actually going to be this the end is still the same thing. It is just the process that is looking very different, or looking different, not even very different. So, and I'll say this: Islamic finance has many of its contracts, right? And then that is why you say that before you go into an Islamic finance transaction, you have to follow some certain contract and then follow some guiding principles. Now, if you look at it, there is a particular contract. We have the debt-based contract. We have the equity-based contract. We also have charitable contract. We have supporting contract, depending on how you want to classify contract in Islamic finance, right? So, if you look at all of these contracts, if you are not careful, scholars have agreed that it has to be conducted in accordance with their tenant. So if you fall out of those tenants, you are most likely going to fall into what? Riba, Goror, Maisir, and the likes. Now, I'll give an example. A very good one, a very quick one is what you and I know is a Murabaha transaction. A Murabaha transaction is like a debt-based transaction that allows you to buy an asset and sell to a third party. It's just a contract of sale. I'll buy. And it has its conditions that the profit alongside the purchase amount of the item should be disclosed, and then of course you would have to pay a certain you can defer the payment and then you can pay immediately. So the problem comes where you have to defer payment. It doesn't mean that Islamic finance does not understand or does not accept the deferred sales. So it means that when I buy an item, I can sell it to somebody on a deferred basis, that the payment will be received instrumentally and it likes. If you look at this particular process, it doesn't, you struggle to understand why it's quite different from when you go to a bank and then the bank is giving you money for a particular amount and then you defer the payment over a period of time. Or probably the repayment is spread using the amortization or whatever that we use in the bank. And then you start asking yourself, what is the difference between these two? If an Islamic bank is saying you'll be spreading that amount over a period of time, you know, and then the conventional bank is also saying the same thing. And then at the end of the day, whether you have to do your calculation, you realize that you are even paying 20% over up and have an effective profit rate or effective return rate to the bank, so a tune of 20% on Islamic finance, and then the other side is, of course, probably lesser or higher or the same. So where's the difference? Why are we saying we're doing something differently from what is existing in conventional finance? Yeah, the answer is very clear. It looks very thin. It's not something you can actually explain on the surface of it. But again, we need to quickly understand the thin line such that we'll be able to understand or appreciate Islamic finance better. So in the case of Islamic finance, which of course is going to be my last part of where I'll be discussing, Islamic finance for a Muraba transaction, although everyone has even said that equity transaction is the best, and then we need to just move away from debt-based transaction to equity-based, but it doesn't mean that the Muraba transaction cannot be allowed or it's not practicable. When you practice a Muraba transaction, it's like I'm buying something and I'm selling this to somebody else at a sale price. So it's going to, my sale price is going to be my cost plus profit. My cost plus profit, the profit element part of it is what some other persons will consider as what RIBA. However, that is not true, because I have bought an item for 100 and I'm adding a 20%, which is called markup. 120 becomes the sales price. It looks very the same when you bring it to the conventional finance. But again, in Islamic finance, as you have it, we are not benchmark with the prevailing interest rate. We're only benchmarking. We are not benchmarking. Let me be practical, right? We are only benchmarking with the prevailing interest rate, because Islamic finance at this time cannot operate in isolation. I'm going to be, I'm just being practical, and I do not want to provoke your thought process. But again, it's good to mention what is being applicable in the industry. When a bank wants to set up its markup, it checks its the prevailing interest rate as mentioned by the regulators. So automatically, if you buy something at a particular amount, probably a house, a car, you look at what the prevailing interest rate is like and then use it as a benchmark, whether higher or lower, and then consider its general expenses to see whether it's able to be profitable on that particular venture. It is this total amount that will be considered as sales price. When this sales price is transferred to the buyer as a customer of the bank, it does not have the opportunity to expand or probably increase more than that, even when the prevailing interest rate is changing. Whether higher or lower, you cannot change. The fixed amount is fixed, and then it has to be communicated to the customer from the inception of the contract. Again, these are the reasons why you see the concept of mutual consent. You see the concept of shared prosperity in Islamic finance. Now, in the conventional finance, when MPR changes, the bank will write you that this has changed, and then your new interest rate on the principal amount would also change. And then that is how you continue to see growing interest rates in your financing. But in the case of Islamic finance, it doesn't change. It remains the same to the end of the contract. A lot of EGTR have been done. A lot of work had also been done to ensure that Islamic finance is that. But again, for the purpose of information on this, our Usrah, is important to let us know that the industry is growing, and then it's very difficult to challenge the existing conventional space. I give you statistics in Nigeria. The entire Islamic finance banking assets is less than 1% compared to the banking assets in Nigeria. What that means is it's very difficult for them to fight or to operate pari passu with them, considering the amount of investment or the amount of asset they have. So it is only you and I that can support this banking system, Islamic banking system. And then at that point, when they grow to where they can rank pari passu with them, then a lot of things can change, and then we can have our preferred banking system that is in line with Sharia that we want. I'm going to stop here. I don't want to go too much further so that I don't take much of our time. With that, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you, Doctor. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you for that wonderful lecture. So once again, I would like to commend the speakers, Sheikh Ibrahim and Dr. Ibrahim. They are both Ibrahim. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you abundantly. While we are waiting to entertain questions, I feel it is important we tell you what we do at Sharia Lab. At Sharia Lab, we offer diverse services ranging from Sharia audit, Islamic finance training. We develop Islamic finance products. We also offer Sharia advisory service, also academic and industry research. While our head office is based in the UK, we operate globally. So if you need any of our services, you can actually reach out to us. Don't forget to join our community through the link that is dropped on the chat box. So we want to actually commend your commitment to this program as well. So try to join our subsequent program and participate in every session that will be coming. I want to assure you that you are going to gain more than beyond what you should expect. And don't forget to share this program to others. By you sharing this program, you never can tell who you can help. Some people do not actually understand what RIBA is. So they don't understand so many aspects of Islamic finance. But by you sharing to your friends, your family, you can actually take one person out of investing in RIBA today. And do you know what that means? It means that you actually save a soul. You've actually set a soul right. So let us do more by sharing such a program. And we have our links all over the social media networks. We have our platforms. We have our pages. You can check on the LinkedIn, search for Sharia Lab and Yahshud. We are on LinkedIn. And also Instagram, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and the likes. Search for Yahsud and Sharia Lab there. So you can find us and just give us a message if you need anything. So I think that about that. If you have a question, you can actually unmute your mic or you drop it at the chat box if you have a question to ask. I'm very sure that our scholars and our speakers will do justice to any of the questions you're asking, inshallah.
Jazakallah khairan. Thank you very much for that, Yusuf. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I'm Abdul Jabbar. I'm also a part of the Yahshud team as well. I have this is something that is very dear to me because one of our major missions at Yahshud is actually looking for ways to move us out of the riba economy. Inshallah, we know it's a long process. It's something that we're all constantly engaging ourselves on and seeing how we can actually, sort of cleanse ourselves of everything to do with riba and the riba economy as a whole. Inshallah, may Allah make it easy for us. I have a few questions for my brothers, Sheikh Ibrahim and Dr. Ibrahim. It might be thought provoking, but I think it's important to ask this question so that we know a way forward. Right. One of my challenges with I'll call it Islamic banking as a whole is, pardon me if this is a bit technical, but I'm sure those that are familiar with the space will understand what I'm talking about. Is that Islamic banking, most especially in this part of the world, is still based on fractional reserve banking. Now, fractional reserve banking, just a quick maybe rundown, is maybe where banks sort of hold a fraction of deposits as reserves and then they lend out the rest. So your money that you're lending out is not really, they sort of creates money from nothing. So that to me is just the definition of riba. So I struggle to reconcile, Islamic banking as it is. And that's why you get a lot of people pass comments like, if you know what Islamic banks are doing, are they really free of riba and the like? So these are conversations I feel like maybe we can get a bit more guidance on. Is this the case? I've never been a banker. This is just things that I've read. So is this the case? Is this still fully based on fractional reserve banking? Is that riba? So are we actually, how would I call it? Are we encouraging or engaging in riba by having our money with, these Islamic banks? That's the one question. The second question is around even just the overall prevailing rates, like you said, interest rates. If you are benchmarking with the interest rates, are we strong enough to create our own benchmark based on the Sharia? Or do we have to use this benchmark for now on a mission and I have a proper roadmap as to how to be independent of the conventional interest rate benchmarks like the LIBORs and the likes? So then what are we doing about that? So it's easy for us to talk a lot and mention our RIBA and allow wages war against RIBA and the likes. But what are the practical tools that we can in our everyday lives sort of create an economy that is free of RIBA? So I just wanted to speak to my brother and see if there's anything I can even add on that and see how we can guide us around those points that I raised. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that question. It's a bit technical, like you said. I think our speakers they are very much here with us, and they can take it up.
Okay, let me kick off, and Dr. Brian could add to it as well. Okay, very shortly. Like rightly pointed out, I think it's a big issue that we are looking at, but we have to know something about Islamic banks. And one key concept there is transparency. When a bank that is Islamic wants to initiate its existence in the market, especially in the realm of the interest-based countries that we run all over the world. I'm not going to use the Arab world as an example because we will say they are okay, even though there are debates around some there as well. But what actually happens from audit perspective is let's use Jais for example in Nigeria. Before they started, there's going to be well, there is a threshold, there is an amount that a bank should have before you can say you have this license that needs to be with the Central Bank of Nigeria, for example. And I'm being theoretical here. They send a kind of IPO. Some investors will start all these banks. They bring the money together, then they start getting this money. They know the amount of their own money in the central bank, and that is what they are working with. And that is why you're going to see that many Islamic banks they are based on business. It's not just these savings accounts. Somebody once asked me from Jai said their application is not too good. Of course, it gets better now, alhamdulillah. They say, see, they are not after your 10,000 naira, 1,000, 1 million naira. They are after people with real money, big fish. That's the people they want to work with. So what they do is they get money. This is the money they use to finance all of those. Dr. Ibrahim rightly mentioned it's actually a huge struggle to actually survive or push away what is actually happening in the conventional setting completely. But there is no, we are going to have to deal with them sometimes. Sometimes you don't even have, I'll take you a bit far, you don't even have the type of money that a particular business needs. You have to actually call another bank. I've worked in the bank, I know, especially in the fintech, I know how this money moves around from MasterCard, even more than Nigeria, Visa, Express, and all of this. So, what Islamic banks they try as much as possible to make sure that their own money is what they are running the business with, and they don't do more than they can chew, they can't take. You are going to see how much Islamic banks in the history of Nigeria have been sustainable so far because they are not doing things based on complete interest. Now, one of the troubling questions that people will have as well is around when they now have some money, probably it's based on interest or the money they have with central bank and there's some interest on it. Yes, when that happens, the bank is not going to use that money to itself. It's going to spend it on a cost that is not going to benefit the bank directly. It's going to be for someone else or into another project. It could be project outside the bank. It could be scholarship for some students going for education. It could be road. It could be different things. Very separate from the business that they are doing. So they are not going to benefit from that river. And all this is well audited when a bank is presenting its financial reports. To the second part of the question around what is a roadmap? Yes, there are several bodies, especially IFSP, Islamic Financial Service Board, based currently in Malaysia, and that's the headquarters. Many other parts of the world are currently working with them. I think even the chairman currently is many Nigerians are in that board as well. So there is a roadmap, and there are things they are doing. In fact, there is a huge challenge on how do we want to actually not work with the LIBOR. Some things have been practicalized in some parts of the world, and they've seen the challenges there. They are using the gap as well, but there is something really happening. But from a general view, Islamic banks do not benefit from that system for its own. Even if anything is going to come to Islamic Bank, they don't benefit from it directly. They spend it into a course outside the bank entirely, and none of the benefit is coming back to the bank. If that explains that part of it, hopefully Dr. Ibrahim has another thing to add to that.
Yeah, thank you, Sheikh Ibrahim. I think that was very explicit. I'll just say one or two. Thank you also, Abjabar, for raising this question. I know it's for professionals and Islamic finance enthusiasm or enthusiasts like you would always want to talk about uh, these fine lines and then how we can take ourselves out of the fractional reserve system alongside with what is called LIBOR transitioning. Even the conventional space, let me quickly take you from the LIBOR transition. The conventional space, right? They have also tried to transition a lot. I think there's a cyber, there's another one recently, of course, trying to just move away from LIBOR. And then practically was just LIBOR, right? It's just a rate that the big banks in the America, in the London, will just come together and say, oh, say, this is LIBOR, right? London. We'll come together and say, this is the amount of money, this is the rate we want to borrow, want to do lending amongst ourselves. So once these big guys, these big banks come together, maybe 10 of them, it will be the rate that will be communicated. And of course, there will not be a spread where bank can start negotiating with. So they often have this discussion, and then the rate is always set. And that's why you say LIBOR has changed, LIBOR change, LIBOR change, LIBOR change. And then the reason why LIBOR will continue to change is premised on different factors. Yes, the RIBA is there. The issue of liquidity is also very, very important. And then that's the strength of a bank. That's the strength of any bank, whether Islamic or conventional bank. So in the banking, you say the one that holds the money cut the short. So even at that, because at the end of the day, you can even go as you can double the LIBOR if you have the liquidity, and then you can demonstrate financing to the deficit unit. Now let's look at, do we have alternative? Because I mentioned in my speech earlier that we benchmark with LIBOR, and then that's the only way our current Islamic finance or Islamic banking can survive. That is the only way. So yes, I stand to be corrected, right? A lot of scholars that has worked many years in the banking sector, even gone to the academic, and done a lot of research and see what alternative do we have, and then they've realized that we are not operating in isolation. We are operating under a global financial market. So that alone is a problem, which of course regulations would definitely affect us. The Basel 1, Basel 2, Basel 3, in terms of managing credit risk, managing liquidity risk and all, would definitely affect, all these regulations definitely affect the operations of Islamic bank, not only conventional banks. So again, these Islamic banks would have to react to this so that they can withstand the existing challenges in the banking sector. So the fractional reserve also is existing, but again, one of the important things that Islamic finance is coming with is the fact that it is premised on ownership. And then there's a concept in Islamic finance that says that bail madun, you cannot sell what you do not have. So if you look at the fractional reserve system, it's like the way Abjabar had mentioned it, that you're selling what you do not have, or probably you're borrowing out what you do not even have. Let's not even talk about interest right now. So again, you now realize that it's very difficult for you to while Islamic banks would not want to do that, they would have to. That's why they come up with underlying assets, and they ask you questions around what you intend to use the money for, and then they buy and sell to you. I was just a very innovative way that has been done over time is the issue of tawaru, you know, and then a lot of scholars have frowned at it. But interestingly, one of the developments that we have seen in the recent time around tawaru, because they've said tawaru is just like bayina, or probably it is just a mimic of the conventional borrowing, just trying to change the pattern. But again, interestingly, we will say that we are progressing, and then to a large extent, where Islamic finance, the country where Islamic finance is largely practiced, they've tried to do what transition away from tawaruk, and then they've given mandates that their banks should reduce the use of tawaruk to less than 50%. And then, of course, regulations are still ongoing to ensure that they use other contracts like the equity-based contract. Let me also mention on this call that, as it seems very interesting to say that Islamic finance should tilt towards equity contract, like Musharaka Mudaraba. And I must mention that they carry the highest risk in Islamic finance, because the conditions that is attached to Mudaraba is very difficult to practice in our modern day banking, considering the nature of customers and then the way things are being done, and especially the way the human financial mindset had evolved. So there's this contract are based on trust, and then you and I understand that trust has left the world. So it's very difficult for people to conduct financial transactions based on trust. So again, even the conventional finance that had equity-based solutions have also ensured they put in measures that if you want to conduct any equity solutions, any equity contract, in many jurisdictions, it has to be that you have to create a reserve worth 300% of what you are lending out or what you are investing in. So you can imagine, it means that if you want to invest in an equity contract, say 1 naira, you have to have a reserve of 3 naira in your bank, or probably in your possession or your reserve. So what that means is you are investing 1 naira. You still have to go and keep a 3 naira by the side to ensure that if anything happens, it will be able to cover up operate. And then recall that that is what led to the last financial crisis. And then they've said that Islamic finance were able to stand the test of time when the financial crisis started, and then we never had a systemic risk. But is that the case today? Yes, we do not want to see a financial crisis, but again, because we have tilted towards debt-based constructs, it's very difficult for us to say that we will be immune or probably exempted from whatever financial crisis that is coming aboard. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide the practitioners, the scholars who are championing the cause of Islamic finance. Behind the scene, you never can imagine the amount of discussion that has been ongoing. Yes, brother Ibrahim mentioned that there's IFSB, there's IOFI, there's a very strong BNMSAC that is also very, very pushing to ensure that where this Islamic finance is accepted to be globally practicalized. So thank you very much. I hope that is able to address some of your questions. Yes, again, in a simple form, do we have alternative today? It's difficult to create an alternative to have it to LIBOR, because we operate under the global financial system. But again, the Malaysian system has said that by the time they can grow systemically to the extent where if the asset of Islamic finance or Islamic banks is now more than conventional banks, at that point they can make regulations that fit the Islamic Finance Society, and then this is ongoing. And Alhamdulillah, they've been able to catch up with more than 50% of the target. Now they are moving towards 70% to ensure that they capture the entire entire market. Is it practical in our own sense now, in our own world, Nigeria? Yes, it is. If we're intentional, now we are less than 1%, but we have a long way to go. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thanks, Jazakallah khairan to the speakers for answering the questions like excellently. So I want to encourage everybody again to please participate in the poll. This will inform our decisions on what to discuss and what we can do for the next sessions. We have 16 people in this call, and I think only 6 people have voted. So I want to encourage everyone to please try to go to the chat box, and there you will see a poll. It's just a simple click. You don't have to type anything. You don't have to write anything. I've done that work for you. So you're just here to chill. Just go there and click on what you want, like what totally like vibes with you. Just click on it, and then I will understand that okay, that's what you chose. And number 2 is also like anonymous, so your name is not going to appear there. So I appreciate it if you could please go to the chat box and please vote on the poll. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Jabbar.
Thank you. Sorry, it seems as if I'm the only one that is taking. I'm just a, what do I call it? I'm a hustler for knowledge. So I just try to just get as much knowledge as I can from anybody that is willing to give me some. The next thing I was going to discuss was around even the practicality of, what I call it, the anti-RIBA movement. I think just in simple terms, for those, what I call it, the newcomers to this intentionality around moving away from RIBA, how can you identify RIBA in your transactions? What can you look out for to sort of guide you? So every financial transaction you are going into, what are the right things to actually look out for, so that in a quick what I call assessment, you can identify what is RIBA and what is non-RIBA. So what are those things that you would advise that one looks out for in every transaction to identify and move away from it, inshallah?
Okay, I'll quickly take that. Maybe Sheikh Ibrahim can also support my position. I'll probably give a clear understanding to it. So, when you look at RIBA, right, I think in the modern day financial transactions, aside from the way it has been described in the early days, so one thing to watch out for, like you asked, is first and foremost, do you have an underlying asset? What are you trading in? So the Quran is very clear. Allah has forbidden riba, and then it has encouraged you to trade. So, and then if you want to trade, what do you want to trade in? Do we have an item you want to trade in? Is it an asset? Is it tangible? Is it intangible? So yes. So it doesn't mean that it has to be tangible. You can trade in intangible asset also. So first and foremost is when you have a transaction, you look at the spirit of the transaction, the conduct of that transaction to see whether there is an underlying asset. If there is no underlying asset, that means you are trading in money. So that's the first thing to check with. Number 2 is how are you actually trading? What is the form of exchange? Are you exchanging with the intention to receive reward? So you can actually have a trade without benefits. It's possible, probably just passing on something to the other person, and then you get your principal in return, or probably the value of the asset in return. So it's possible, but of course, if it's profitable venture, then the price of the asset the profit that is going to be generated on that asset is also going to be communicated, and then we will pass on to the counterparty. That's been done. So again, you have to look at the nature of the item. What's the item like? Is it permissible asset or not? So again, you can just have all assets, but not all assets can be traded. There's a lot of discussion still going on cryptocurrency, whether it is halal or haram. But again, I think that's another conversation that we'll continue to look at in the future. So again, it's important to look at the nature of the item, and then not to trade items that have been forbidden by Allah. So you trade items like tangibles. You can also trade items that are intangibles. Of course, you just have to you need to put value to these items so that you can communicate clearly with your counterparty. Other things that can be looked at is what happens in the case of default, or probably the person is unable to make payment, or probably the exchange cannot be conducted. We have pillars of contract in Islam, and then which is very important to always follow when we want to conduct transactions. So these pillars are the guiding principles that of course you need your consideration, the item, the parties to the transaction, and of course of the offer and acceptance. So when all of these things are mentioned and then they can be established, you can always you are a little bit free from RIBA, provided that you conduct this transaction in mutual consent. Allahu Alam.
Ibrahim. I think there isn't much to add to that. I think you covered the basics. The only one thing I would just want to remind us as family is sometimes we put ourselves in trouble because of gratification, or I'm just in a rush, I want to make money. And unknowingly, one is not going to actually look out for what they should actually look out for. So we shouldn't rush in anything. Consult to local scholars, ask questions in Sharia Labs, Yahshud. You can always screen things first. One thing that we don't do all the time is that many of us do not read terms and conditions. Just feel people are doing it and that's it. We trust, or we don't verify. All these things we actually need to look into them very well as well. As a matter of fact, I must be closer to us. So there are some so-called Sharia compliant products or services, but underneath them, some people have just done some fatwa shopping and just one after just screenshot it for them, it's okay and that's it. But as people are still falling into riba, and so there is Gharar involved, Maisi, Rahima, and a lot out there. So we should ask questions that are necessary, stupid questions, ask them as well, because we are going to have the understanding of what we are doing. So I think there is the human nature part to all of this as well. What do we actually want at the end of the day, which is very important for God. And I think Sister Firdaus is in my family.
Firdaus, you have your hand up. Do you want to ask a question? Okay, please go ahead if you have a question. Oh, let me see. Hold on 1 second. Let me see whether are you muted?
I think
Okay, please go ahead. I think you can unmute yourself now.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone, and thanks for organizing this. I have a question to Dr. Ibrahim, please. Okay, so while the current Islamic banks try to move from the current status quo to something more Sharia compliant, are we still safe to are they still Sharia compliant? Like, can we still participate in them as at what we have right now, or we should just like withdraw our money and go back to the colo system? So I just want to like know. Thank you.
Now, Jazakumullah Khair for that question. Yes, you see, we're very safe, right? We're very safe because in the current system, and then because the current system is very difficult, is a system that is premised on riba, right? And then what Islamic finance has done in the past or is currently doing is to try to separate itself in the conduct of riba. So it's clear that their transactions are not riba based. And then they've created alternatives. And those alternatives are what we have discussed earlier. So if you go to a bank, whether by way of financing or Islamic bank to be specific, by way of financing or investing, you're actually not taking interest. I remember when I was growing up, I had a GT bank. So I had a conventional bank account. So and then that was when I started hearing about interest-based banking and then the war against riba. I remember one of my stars was telling me that we don't have an Islamic bank in Nigeria. We cannot keep our money in the house, so automatically we still have to have them in the bank. Having them in the bank, then if we get return on probably savings in our account, does that mean that we can eat it or we can spend we can accumulate those funds? So again, I recall very well that the resolution at the time, the advent of Islamic Bank, was that we should try as much as possible to calculate that part of it and then channel it to charity. But however, if you look at it, how much is that money? But again, you also ask yourself the other question. Riba is riba. Whether it's 1%, riba is riba. There's a particular challenge, a particular discussion around Turkey. There was a time they had negative interest rates. I can't remember the country. As long as it is riba, it is still. As long as it's interest, it is interest. Whether negative interest rate or positive interest rate is riba. Whether it is less than 1%, whether it's 0.1, whether it is not significant, riba is riba. So the concept will not change, whether it is significant or not. The concept will not change, or the war against it will not change, whether it is negative. The most important thing is Allah. There's the ilah around why riba is prohibited. So the Islamic banks that we have right now, what they've done differently is to ensure that transactions are conducted in a fair and equitable manner without having to do interest. Allah.
Thank you so much. That is clear. So if I can now ask another question, different from the first one, in the context of the LIBOR scenario you are painting, you and Abjabar were talking about earlier, the question Abjabar asked earlier. So now, if we turn the table and like, can Yahshud, for example, now decide to like take a banking license, knowing that he may still have to like, as at this particular moment, it may still have to like get involved with the whole LIBOR or scenario, or does he have to like chill and wait till everything is like Sharia compliant?
When
Do you get
the yes, I understand where you're coming from. So we cannot wait. Because if you are not there, you will not be able to participate, and that's why you cannot even completely discourage some of our people to work and in the Islamic bank or probably even in the conventional bank because the experience is there. So it is only when you get that experience then you can change the narratives. So I've seen a lot of even our great scholars in Islamic finance. Many of them had their background in conventional finance, conventional economics, and then that has a lot assisted the development of Islamic finance. Now, having said that, if you cannot wait to say that is until when we do not know when when that will happen. I gave a scenario, a particular a good scenario of the Nigerian market. It's less than 1%. And the Nigeria Islamic Bank has Nigeria Islamic Finance would celebrate its 15 or 20 years this year, between 15 and 20. So what that means is, if for the last 15 years we just have been able to achieve less than 1%, how long do we want to go to achieve 5%, 10%, up to 50%, and that will allow us to take the market share? So it is very difficult. We just have to do something. We cannot sit back and say we are not going to do anything. The least we can do is to establish our banks and then being able to control what is within our capacity. Again, fractional reserve system is there. We will not say we are mimicking. We will only say that we are trying to adapt to the system in order to deliver the best of products to the populace, to the populace generally. Thank you very much.
Just to quickly add to that, is the way the Islamic bank is going to working is also drawing experience from the Sharia, the way the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam dealt with things during his time. We all agree the Rasul Sallallahu went to Medina. It's not as if everything in Medina was in place, fully fledged Sharia compliant. So we've got to adapt, move little by little, bit by bit. We get the license. The more we participate, I think there is more for the Muslim audience to do than those even actually getting the license than the practitioners. If we are not patronizing them, there is no way we are going to move forward at a very good pace. So the more we Muslims campaign for this in our areas, family and friends, that's how we are going to have more. Just imagine people really want to invest. They want asset backed investment that they can do into. But trust, there is nothing there. Imagine we have many more Yahshud in our country, unlike many other listings of CBX and many other people that have to follow people and all of these things happen. People have that trust is going to come back, but that is not going to happen if we are also running away from it. So we are going to face the challenge head on, then we avoid what we can avoid, go at the purest minimum for things we cannot avoid. And that was a beautiful shot.
Jazakallah khairan. Thank you so much for that. We have some questions in the Q&A sessions. I think I'll just drop them, a couple of them. So Brother Alawale Farouk wants to know if trading currencies is riba, that's buying and selling of currency. And then Anonymous wants to know how about the way the majority of cooperatives operate in Nigeria? Can there be Sharia compliant cooperatives? So trading currency, is it riba? I'm guessing it's buying and selling of currency. I don't know if it's like they do with the platforms and the likes. Is it riba? And then also Sharia compliant options for cooperatives in Nigeria. And also the way they run the cooperatives, are they Sharia compliant also? So those two questions.
I think Dr. Gibran can go first on the trading one. I'm a complete Sharia person. I would actually very, very. I'm not saying, I'm not passing fatwa, but I would say be very careful. Trading is not completely haram. So we personally, I would say, which trading platform and what are you trading? So that is that. There are people who do business of we saying, for example, different currencies. Mm. And there is a profit at the end of that. That's what happened, which is right because they are different currencies there now, or might be something else they are trading. And there are other platforms globally as well trying to come up with some other indexes that people could put into trade in. Facet has one and many others. But before we go into anything, we should completely have the understanding of what it is, which platform. One might mimic the other, but it's something we should be very careful of before we go into it. That's one. I think Dr. Brown is going to add to it. On cooperatives, we're not campaigning for anyone, but there are numbers that I know that are doing very well and they are trying to be Islamic. At schools, at different sectarial, people are trying to do stuff. I've been involved in few ones that are completely Sharia compliant structurally. I'm not sure about the running for years. I'm currently on another project that we're trying to build a kind of infrastructure for these cooperatives to be able to work fine. Some people have tried not working and all of this, but believe me, there is a lot going on in the industry, and people are actually thinking what we should, the way we should serve the Muslim community to be able to have their finances in the way possible. So I think there's a lot going on. So on trading, personally, I would say be careful. Just like the story of the Mr. Pure Water I told you, who wants to trade with money. Just go open the issue and you're going to make money as you go along.
I mean, Allah knows best. I just always look at things, especially when it comes to this trading, is what value are you creating? So if you are providing a currency exchange for people that are actually doing actual trade where it's not convenient for them, say for instance, people are coming from outside of another country to trade in naira, and then you are providing that naira for them as a service. You with a little bit of markup. Allah knows best. I'm not a scholar by any stretch of the imagination, but I want to believe that would be permissible. But where you are
Yeah, yeah,
just, where you are just gambling on, other activities to increase the
exactly.
value of a currency over another currency, and you're doing a lot of speculation, which in itself is prohibited. So I want to believe that you should be very, very careful around those lines.
So that's what I've said. It is something we should really look into because we don't want to paint everything in the same brush. But there could be few, especially things that are done traditional, which are fine. And of course, say for example, the way we do things, Stafford does mentioned Kolo age. You go to a party, for example, somebody has new notes of Naira and you're going to give, that is riba. So because you're changing the same note. There are platforms that do the same thing. That is complete riba. When you want to trade another currency for another, how is it happening? What is happening at them? What is the value you're giving to the economy? So somebody just sit down somewhere. I'm just waiting for some people to leave so that I can gain money there. The rule of Sharia is no longer there. So it's something we should, and there are many other businesses we can do and promote. The more we run away from riba, the more such business based on it are going to fail as well. And the more we support the one that are Sharia compliant, the more it's going to fail.
That's like any other questions? Anybody want to pass any questions? I think we're running out of time, so. Okay, if there are none, I think the next thing we'll discuss, or I'd would like us to discuss, what are the options, right? So we talk about this not being this not being that. What are the options? Even because I'll say one of the objectives of even Islamic finance is wealth. What I call it is the wealth preservation and even growth of wealth. So what are the options? And obviously, speaking from a Yahshud standpoint, we have our investment notes that we created, like the Mudaraba notes. So there are quite significant amounts of Islamic, would like Sharia compliant investment options out there as well. I think what the ecosystem needs as a whole is more, what I call is more marketing and a bit more presence in terms people do not know these products are out there. So when you try as much as possible, because obviously we're always you go around, you see all these billboards about lending money and the ridiculous rates and all that as well. But what are the options for Muslims that want to trade and do business in this same environment? So is there like would I call it like a prospectus or something just to, where can we find these options as a Muslim? If I want to carry out a transaction, is there anywhere I can go to see what options are out there for me regarding the transaction I want to carry out? I want to buy a house. I want to buy a car. I want to invest some money I have towards my kids' education. Is there is there any go-to source of information for us that we are aware of? Or is this an opportunity for someone to build that so that, as Muslims, we can be intentional in our decision making every single day regarding our finances?
I personally will say honestly that this is a beautiful conversation, and I would think we should move it to the next m- meeting we're going to be having with the family. We can even go in depth about it because There are many options. I mean, starting with rain and many other ones. I know Dr. Brown has a lot as well. I'm not sure. That's just my opinion. If you think you should take it forward, that is fine.
Inshallah, inshallah. So, Abiba, maybe you want to take notes. I think this will go into the next conversation as well. I think because it's the practicality of it that really matters, you know. So, yeah. Abiba, please
Yes,
go ahead.
yes, I will. I've taken note of it and I'll put that in our next session, inshallah. So we're going to the next segment now. That is I'm going to put some spotlight on RAIN. And RAIN is our real estate investment notes that is always brought out by Yahshud. And we bring it out. We bring it out in the minimum of 500,000. So we crowd money from the investors. And once those investors have brought the money, we put the money into real estate development. We buy real estate and we also sell, we let it out. And those funds we get from the activities we do, we actually use those funds to pay you profit. And the insurance on this investment is our properties that we have. So I'm not praying for it, but if anything happens, because investment is always a risk, we actually give you back your money from the assets that we own. So we sell assets that we own, or we do some commercial activities on the assets that we own, and then we use that money to give you back. So that is like giving a very rigid and a very tangible insurance on your investment. There's nothing like wait for somebody to do something. It's based on what we have. It's tangible and you can see it, you can touch it, you can feel it. So that means your investments are really safe with us. So the link to sign up for the RAIN investment, it's in the link, is in the chat box, please. And I also still want to help advise us to please participate in the poll that is in the comment section, please, to help us to drive engagement. Okay. And for RAIN, we do not give interest. And currently, we are giving out 25% on the amount that you invest. You can either choose between collecting your profits quarterly or collecting your profits in a go. The funds stay with us for a year, that is 12 months. And in between and inside those 12 months, your profit payments are paid three months. So that means you get like I think 3 or 4 profit payments. And if you don't want it like that, like in a piecemeal, you can opt in for a yearly payment. That means you get it all in bulk at the end of the investment period. And there was someone who was raising his hand before. I don't know whether he still wants to ask his question. DTO Media, do you still want to ask a question? Are you there, please? Okay, I don't think he wants to ask any question anymore.
Okay, no, I think he's unmuted his mic. Okay, okay.
I don't have any questions.
Okay.
I'm following the
Okay. So the way we use our funds after we crowdfund them, we invest those funds in real estate, either by renovating an existing real estate and selling it or letting it out. That means renting it out. Or we put it in, or we help other people to build theirs. That means we fund the real estate development of other investors, and we also sell it or let it out, and then we get funds from there. The most beautiful thing about the RAIN is that it's almost as if it's pulling together halal income that is not really like resting upon the banking system. So it's almost as if we are trying to clean up the funds to create like an ecosystem of riba-free riba-free funds to put into real estate. I can remember there was a time I was looking for funds to like kind of like buy a car, but I really couldn't find any halal alternative, so I just put it off. And there are many Nigerians I know that are like me who are looking for non-interest funds to buy whatever they want to buy, be it household appliances, or a house, a car, or even to even fund their schooling. So by in encouraging platforms like Rain, we encourage growth of riba-free funds, and it makes us to have like a strong foundation for Islamic finance. As Muslims, we shouldn't have anything to do with interest. Yes. So, and we're also transparent, and we have a low barrier of entry, and it's super practical. If you have any questions, please join our WhatsApp community. The link is also in the chat box. You can ask questions, and you can also private chat the community admins if you don't want your questions to be public. All that can happen on the WhatsApp platform. So Rain is birthed because we thought about smart Muslims investors who want to invest their money in smart alternatives apart from what is available from the conventional investment platform and the conventional banks. So to learn more about Rain, I'll say it again, please join our community and please follow our Facebook pages. And I also want to thank Sharia Labs for this wonderful collaboration with us. Please follow them on their WhatsApp, on their Instagram page, and also please join their WhatsApp community to learn more about Islamic finance and how you can apply it in your own life. So I just want to bring up a little like a little short game. I want to know if we understand what we've learned just before it's time for Maghrib. And what you have to do is just to use the emojis in the app. You thumbs up for yes, it's riba, and thumbs down for no, it's not riba. So buying a house with conventional mortgage, is that riba or not? Please thumbs up for riba and thumbs down for no riba. Hello, please, are we all there? Okay, thank you so much. And the next question, joining a profit sharing partnership with no guaranteed returns. That means you join a partnership to share profits and the risk is shared between the parties. Is that riba or not riba? Yes, thank you. And then for paying off credit card bill. So if you have a credit card, you pay off your credit card every month in full. Does that contain riba or doesn't contain riba? I can see someone saying it contains riba. I don't think it contains riba because you pay it in full. And once you pay your credit card bills in full every month, there's no interest on it. So that one doesn't have any riba. You can have a credit card, but the only thing you can do is that you must pay it in full every month. You cannot owe. Once you owe, then they start to give you credit payments on it. Then, okay, the other one is taking a student loan with interest to study abroad. Okay, yes, thank you. And borrowing credits or data from your network, like MTN. How many of us borrow credits? You don't need a sharp. You don't make a sharp call and your credit is finished, and there's nowhere to buy credits in view. How many of us borrow credits? Do you know that it contains interest because they give you more, you pay back more than you took. So that's actually
please can I just make a point on that? Does it if they agree to a certain price beforehand that okay, this is 1.5 you're borrowing, you are going to pay 2,000 and you go ahead and borrow it, is that still riba? Please, my scholars in the house.
To me, I would argue that it's almost like the conventional bank loan. Because if you remove that percentage, you always give, it's almost like an agreement.
But if I agree to buy it at that increased interest before I go in that transaction, which is agreed upon, that I'm paying 2,000 for this 1,500 credits, is that riba? I think that's grey. But I'll let my learned scholars teach us.
No, that one is right. It's quite Please, Mr. Ibrahim, can you please answer? Mr. Ibrahim Ajani, please, can you please answer that?
Okay, Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I think
Alaikum salam.
one thing to understand here is you need to know the time you are entering into a contract and then the terms and conditions of that contract. I'll just quickly pin that scenario of the credit card, the recharge card thing. First and foremost, I want to believe I don't have an experience of that how it works, but from what you have explained, I will just quickly explain what you said. So it's a system where you borrow airtime from the vendor, and then the vendor at the end of the month, or probably just before they pay you, they have a charge. Say you were supposed to borrow 100 and then you were credited 80 from that. That's RIBA. So RIBA comes in different form. Definitely, you would want to think that it was supposed to be where you should be expecting before you can say something is RIBA, it has to be a 120. But if it is the fact that you borrow at 100 and then what you are going to be receiving is 80, that means there's an element of RIBA in that case. Also, if the reverse is the case where you borrow 100 and then what you are paying back is 120, it is also RIBA. Allah.
Thank you very much for answering the question. So the next one we're going to go is
I think we have
investing in an
Idris.
Islamic.
Hello.
Okay, Abubakar, you're raising up your hand, please.
Sorry, on this aspect, our scholars in northern Nigeria, they have consensus that it's not a airtime borrowing in communications, network communications channels like MTN, Gulu, and the rest. Our let's
Okay,
call
so did they give us any kind of like a?
That's what I'm saying. Our scholars, initially, Sheikh Jafar Mahmoud Abdul Adam Rahimahullah, he discussed about this, and even our present scholar Muhammad Sani Rijal Lemu, they discuss about this borrowing from mobile networks. They say that it's not an element of riba, it's just a value-added tax. That is a tax there, that is there, not riba.
But I think there was a time a network provider explicitly told me that it was interest. Like in their message, they said it was an interest.
Okay, so thank you very much, Sheikh Abubakar Idris. You know, so again, I think there's a need for us to understand context, right? And then also to be able to appreciate other opinions from different regions. So a very good example, which is what I'm going to talk about, is something that we recently mentioned, which is fatwa standardization. Now, what is applicable in a particular region? Because this is an issue of muamalat, and then of course it means that it's open to each yard, and then you can consider so many options or other Sharia sources before you can give an opinion. So, giving an opinion on that, considering your that region which you had mentioned, which of course it may be premised on uruf. You can, of course, there's no harm in trying to disqualify the opinion of the scholars, as long as they have a better understanding of how it's being practiced in that region, and then of course to see whether there's an element of maqasid. It's just unfortunate that Sheikh Ibrahim is still around. You can also say something about that. Okay, alhamdulillah. So again, this is not an avenue for argument as to whether it is riba based or not, but we are just looking at the context. It might not necessarily have to be mobile network communication or mobile network transaction in another context. It could be me trying to get something from somebody to be paid in the future. Probably I need to buy something 100, and then what was given to me is a value of 80. That's pure riba. So whether it is increase in value or not, that is pure riba. But some instances are that they look at the entire transaction, the way it's being conducted, and then they've been able to identify certain things that could allow them to qualify it as not as riba. Yes, we can. Of course, it is allowed. I appreciate the fact that you mentioned that in your own region, your scholars have looked at it to look at the way it is being conducted, whether in your region or not, or probably they've done more research and findings, or probably they've communicated with these mobile communicators in terms of whether what is the context, the reduction in value or the increase in value is considered as what. Because let's go back to the foundation. We're saying we are borrowing. What are we borrowing? So that is that's the context here. So riba is riba wherever it is, the way it's being conducted, whether it's being manipulated, whether it is sideline, riba is riba. Allah, may Allah forgive guide everyone apart. We have Brother Ibrahim Adediran here. He's raising his hands also.
Now, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Can you hear me? Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you for this program. Jazakumullah khairan. I have a question for the ustad in the house. I was discussing with someone concerning conventional mortgage, and the guy was like, okay, there's no alternative here, blah, blah, blah. I said there are alternatives. And I said, Allah did not say we should not give out riba, but Allah condemned that we should collect riba from people. So looking at the verse of the Quran, but I was not there. Allah said anything that is out of a riba, you should take your hands off it. He said, no, give me an explicit verse of the Quran that says we should not pay riba. He knows that it is haram to collect riba, but he was like, give me a verse that says we should not pay riba. So I'm not asking the ustaz, how can you address this kind of issue? I have quoted hadith. He said no. He said he wants verse of the Quran.
Well, if you can just Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. No, when you're dealing with people, you call them, say, probably a surface store in you. So there's a verse of the Quran. Probably the person won't even be able to understand. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wa in tibtum falakum ru'usu amwal. If the person can translate that verse, then he gets all the answer that he wants. That is one. Secondly, if you've given somebody an hadith of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and reject it, I sincerely don't know what to say to that person if he's a Muslim, actually. So you don't really need to waste your time on somebody rejecting the hadith that is sahih. The Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam counted the numbers of people who are in trouble of taking the riba. There is another hadith of Rasulullah and I think this is one of the scariest hadiths on riba to me. Rasulullah said, "Dirham riba ya'kuluhu ar-rajul wa huwa ya'lam ashaddu min 36 zaniya." A naira, a dirham of riba that someone takes or eats or gives is worse in the sight of Allah than that person to commit zina 36 times. So I don't know what else the person wants. So I really would just advise, don't waste your time. Just pray for the person for guidance, and Allah will guide the person. I think few questions have been raised earlier on. Sorry, I was not on call. Student loan, mortgages, credit card even. I think there's a lot to it, and the way it works in a region is completely different from the way it works in another region. I believe Dr. Ibrahim already mentioned that if you mention POS to somebody in the UK, in the US, for example, doesn't understand what POS is in Nigeria. Everything is going to be translated as point of sales, right? But it's different concept entirely. I think Brother Bakr mentioned something around the shuyukh from the northern part of Nigeria. I was fortunate to meet many of them in the conference while I was in Sokoto. And Alhamdulillah, probably the shuyukh you mentioned were not there. Many of them that sitting, they changed their opinion, mashallah, after my presentation, that they think it is riba as well. Um, Probably sometimes when we ask questions to Shiyu on sitting of question and answer after a particular talk, they might not have had enough time to look into what is being discussed or what is being mentioned. You remember I mentioned earlier on that terms and conditions are very important that we look into them. Otherwise, we are going to fall into river. It will be structured in a way that we don't even know it is river, but there is underlying element of river there. Uh, if you look at it on the from the outside, say you borrow credit from network, for example, what are they selling to you? And Dr. Ibrahim mentioned that if you talk on Makasi Sharia, there is a key point of at that fee here. If you are selling 100 naira for me, but I have to pay 120. Some people might look at it as okay, it's because of the value of I'm enjoying and all of that. Is that what is in the terms and condition or what? So if you're not paying now, we are going to charge you more because we are losing something. Is that the concept or what? I think Sister Firdaus also mentioned that it's stated completely that it is interest in in their contract. So all this needs actually to be clarified before a factor can be passed. It is completely yes or no. Meanwhile, all these companies they update their terms and conditions all the time. If you use Apple phone, you use Samsung, you just click on agree, 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 agree. When you use every time they update a particular version of their phone or iOS or anything or Android, we click yes, and there are terms and conditions. There are things going on there. No, we don't know. So from this company's perspective as well, we need to understand what is going on before we can actually pass direct fatwa. Probably what is happening then has changed from now. Maybe the reason why scholars of then pass this fatwa that okay, it is okay, we take it now. Probably that condition is no longer there. We have to actually check all of these factors. So for example, one of us mentioned around mortgages. In the past, in the Western world, some scholars pass fatwa that people can get that conventional mortgages because there was no Islamic mortgage and people are finding it difficult to get house and they should only get it for only if they actually need the house. It's not that they want to use business for it. Some people start making it for business. There's what we call said the Sharia in the science of fiqh. I won't go into details. But now we have Islamic mortgages, a lot out there. We are not patronizing it. So that fatwa of them, the duration is OT expire, is done. So we have to issue another fatwa. So we need to understand what is involved, what is actually happening, what is this context in this particular issue before we can issue a particular fatwa of saying yes or no. The fatwa could change with time, with place, and many other things. Wallahu a'lam.
So much. Thank you very much for answering that question. Yeah, I really put my mind at rest. So quickly, I want to give the floor to my colleague, Firdaus, who's going to speak about our upcoming open house we are having tomorrow. Firdaus, please.
Okay, Assalamualaikum to everyone. And thank you so much, Habiba. Thank you, everyone. So, if we all remember, one key thing apart from RIBA that has been mentioned on this call is that Islamic finance products are asset backed. So, there is an asset that backs Yahshud or rain product, and that particular asset is called the rain apartment. Is a 3 bedroom flat, 8 units of 3 bedroom flat at number 2 Bishop Street, Surulere. So the assets increase the trust you have in Yahshud. It it's yeah, it's the asset, the underlying assets that backs the rain product. So for tomorrow, we're having something exciting tomorrow. We're having an open house. So it's for prospective investors as well as real estate agents. for them to come and check the facility out, meet the team behind the project, ask us questions, link us with their clients, get commissions. And we're also like doing a 500,000 naira discount, sale discount. So if you're a prospective, the a unit is going for 80 million naira, which I think is a very fair price as regards what the market is saying right now. So besides that, you're having like if we're having a 500k discount for investors that attend the open house tomorrow. You don't have to like pay tomorrow, but you have to like attend the open house tomorrow. At the same time, we're having a 500k discount aside from commission for realtors that shows up tomorrow. Like again, that is outside of their commission that they will get from their clients, or they could ask us to add on top of our net fee for their client to pay. So we also have plans for DSAs that market our products in terms of like you're applying for training and helping them with their inspection. So maybe like you're joining this call from Kano and you're like an agent, or you have a person in Lagos that may be interested. You don't have to come all the way from Kano to check a property out for a client. You can just like connect us to the clients and have that good faith that will be transparent as regards the dealing. We won't. I mean, that's one of the advantage of being a Sharia compliant company. So those are some of the benefits. Those are the benefits as regards this particular open house. So it's happening. Again, it's happening tomorrow at 10 a.m. Everybody, do you want to say something?
No. I want you to quickly round up because it's time for my group.
Oh, okay.
So
So again, it's happening tomorrow at 10 a.m. You could message us at Yahshud. They've already shared the Yahshud WhatsApp link. You could join the Rain Property Sales group within that, or you could ask any of the admin. As well as you could also like send me a message as well. So thank you so much, everyone. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam barakatuh. Thank you everyone who came to this meeting. May Allah continue to help us and to promote us and to enrich us in knowledge, in provisions, and in everything good in this world and in the next. Please follow us on our platforms and do well to engage with us so we can know what you want us to talk about in the next 2 weeks. We are going to hold another financial Usrah Friday, inshallah. Thank you for coming and God bless. Bye.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much.
Assalamu alaikum. Mr. Adamu, please, can you? The call is over.